EP Magazine presents Layla Tamimi and her uplifting story, from suffering a debilitating paralysis and stroke to graduating this past January with honors from Montclair State University. In addition, we focus on vision, hearing, speech, and how these impact the development and education of people with special needs. Read it today at www.epmagazine.com.
Oscar Mike Radio is a proud podcast partner of REITs Across America Radio, heard every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. They're also big supporters of the nonprofit I Got Your Six, Two Lives at Once. And with every REIT you sponsor through Oscar Mike Radio, $5 goes back to this great organization dedicated to making a difference in the lives of veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders battling PTSD. Two Lives at Once pairs these brave men and women together with dogs rescued from kill shelters. In this way, two lives are saved at the same time by saving each other. Donate now. Go to REITsAcrossAmerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio to help. That's REITsAcrossAmerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio.
Suicide is preventable, and each of us has a role to play in suicide prevention.
Suicide is complex. There is no single cause.
And it's not always a mental health issue. It could be loss of a job or home, financial or relationship issues, pain, or leaving the military.
Suicide does not discriminate. It affects all ages, races, and genders, veterans or not.
If you know a veteran who is struggling, connect with them. Let them know help is available.
There is quick and easy access to services in times of crisis.
Dial 988, then press 1. Talking about it is okay.
Don't keep it inside. Don't be ashamed. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Hello, and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. I'm your host. My name is Travis. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hoobazoo Network. You can find out more on hoobazoo.com. I want to thank my sponsors, Joyce ASAC of ASAC Real Estate, Army National Guard, veteran Mark Holmes of Reaper's Detailing and Power Washing, and my supporters, Cason Shaving Company, Exceptional Parent Magazine, and Black Cat Designs. You'll never know what you're going to see when you tune into Oscar Mike Radio. It could be anything. And so I get something across my wire, the comms come through that there's this, surfing nonprofit veterans advocacy group out of South Carolina. And, would I be interested in talking with them? I'm like, surfing? Like all kinds of questions about surfing. And, when I think about surfing, I think about California and my time in Camp Pendleton. So I said, yeah, sure. So I want to introduce to you my next guest with the Warrior Surf Foundation, Navy veteran Stephanie Dasher. Stephanie, welcome to Oscar Mike Radio.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So there's tons of good stuff. I'm just full of questions and inquisitive mind and all that. But before we get into the good stuff, and it's all good, kind of tell us about your background, what you did in the military, and we'll start there.
Yeah, I joined the military straight out of high school. I planned to go to college. I always joke my parents weren't filling out the FAFSA paperwork fast enough. So I went down to the recruiting station, and I wanted to take the ASVAB. I actually wanted to be a pilot. I didn't know anything about flying. I just did a Google search and Googled it, and I went in and took the flight aptitude test at MEPS. I think I missed it by 1 or 2 questions. But the warrant officer that was in there was like kind of a jerk, and he was like, "You think you can just come in here and be a pilot?" And I was like, "Not with that attitude, I can't." So I taken the ASVAB, and the nuke recruiters, they found me, and they were like, "Hey, we'll give you a lot of money, and you'll get your college done if you come do this." So just like any dumb 18-year-old kid that you dangle a bunch of money in front of, I was like, "Cool, sign me up." So I ended up going out west after I did schooling. I was on the Stennis for a while. And that's when I met my husband. And he actually is in the Army. He was 11 Bravo. He was stationed at Fort Lewis. And so we got married pretty young, like a lot of people in the military do. And I would say I'm really very fortunate to still be married to him almost
Wow.
15 years later.
Wow, that's rare, Stephanie. Generally it doesn't go well. There's a reason why, the lieutenants are like, first sergeant talk to that little Marine before he does this. But wow, very impressive. So you were like nuclear energy on like subs and aircraft carriers, right?
Nuclear power, yeah. They didn't let women on submarines until just when I was getting out.
So on
They,
an aircraft carrier, so they're all nuclear powered, right? So I can't help myself. I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but whenever I hear that, I think of the Star Trek movie where they're saving the whales or whatever. I forget what it is, but anyway, Chekhov says to Captain Kirk, "We've got to go to the USS Enterprise and get some of their nuclear energy," and they just kind of walk right into the aircraft carrier and, for lack of a better term, download some nuclear energy and walk right out. I mean, somebody didn't get their Firewatch ribbon that movie, right? I mean, come on, how's that work?
that doesn't work if you want to continue to live a happy, healthy life. That's for sure.
So what is it? So just let me go technical here for instance. So what is it about nuclear power that the Navy likes for, driving a ship that big versus, other nations aren't really using nuclear power for all their aircraft carriers yet?
Hmm.
What is the main thing with nuclear power?
I think it's just very safe and it's very efficient.
Yeah, because it's like 20 to 30 years before you have to refuel.
Listen, when I got out, there was a big black book that they gave me that was like about this large. And they're like, "Hey, read this and then sign this paper saying you read it." And all of the classified information stays classified. So I actually don't know the rules on if I can tell you that or not.
This is a first for Oscar Mike Radio. She can neither confirm nor deny what I'm asking her. This is great. Stephanie, we're off to a good start here. I'm going to remember this one for a while. So you get married to the love of your life. You're still married to him. You work on a super cool MOS, a lot cooler than Hawk, by the way. And, you didn't have to go in the desert and you had like air conditioning all the time. So that was fantastic. And then what happened for you to get out of the Navy?
So when I married my husband, I was still in the Navy. He deployed to Iraq, and when he got back, we got pregnant pretty immediately, which was a surprise and a shock to both of us. And not really, we were really young. We didn't know, and we weren't trying to get pregnant. We didn't really know what to do with that, especially because anytime there was a loud noise, he was still hitting the deck and crawling across the floor to check out what was happening outside of our apartment door. And so it was a challenge trying to just navigate life and figure it out. And I think ultimately knowing, kind of having a little bit of an idea of what was in store for him and us, I think there was just an inner intuition I had that me staying in wasn't gonna be beneficial. So I ultimately decided that I would get out.
Okay, so you get out and you support your husband and you know there's challenges there. Where did surfing come into your life? Was it at this point, or you know, were you surfing when you got into the Navy?
I'd surfed a few times when I was in high school,
Yeah.
but nothing really profound. I didn't have a lot of skill. Really, what happened was after he got out, and because he was stop loss while he was over there, so when he got out, he was dealing with some of those initial issues that happen when you come back from deployment, and after a while, those kind of faded away, and something more insidious took its place, and there was a lot of depression and anxiety, and he was struggling really deeply for years. He tried a lot of different things, a lot of different medications and different kinds of therapies and experimental therapies, and they didn't work, and some of them actually made it worse in a lot of ways. And we just got to the point where we were really desperate. I wouldn't leave him home alone, because I was afraid of what I would come home to
Yeah.
a lot of the times. And so I'd always leave a kid with him because I'm like, oh, if he has this responsibility, he loves these kids, everything will be okay. And he was seeing a therapist at the VA here where we live now. And she was like, hey, have you heard of this organization? And he came home and he told me about it. And I was like, cool. I'm like, we'll do it. Sign us up. I love the ocean. Take us out there. And he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be around any veterans. I hate people. I hate veterans. And I'm like, I'm signed us up. So I really drug him out there. And I like to joke that, um, there was possible talk of divorce on our way there. And he hated it initially. He didn't like it. He didn't want to be there. He, yeah, he just wasn't there for it. But I also saw this little piece of him kind of come alive because he's an athlete and surfing's not easy. And he sucked at it at first. And so there's this little like niggling of like a challenge inside of him where he's like, I'm going to master this. And so that kind of came alongside of all the other pieces. And so that's really how we got involved in surf therapy.
Killing me, Stephanie. You're killing me because this sounds like this thing called love that I don't believe in. And that you loved him and made him do something he didn't want to do, but you knew would be good for him. And then he started liking it. That sounds like love, like because you had to drag him kicking and screaming to something that would be good for him.
Yeah.
That has to be. Is that love? Is that what that is?
Um, yes. I mean, I think that love is showing up in the hard spots and the difficult places and meeting people where they are. And yes, I love him very much. And I've always only wanted the best for him.
So was this organization at the time the Warrior Surf Foundation, or was it a different org?
It was the Warrior Surf Foundation. It was founded by Andy Manzi, who's also a Marine veteran.
Same
And
time?
yeah, exactly. He had a similar experience. He deployed overseas, came back, was struggling. A friend of his took him out surfing in the winter in Connecticut, and it really changed his life. And he was like, "Whoa, this is doing something to me, and I want to help other people experience this."
So let's go down that rabbit hole for a second. You know, you're watching your husband come to this thing, and you're dragging him. You know, you're coming to this whether you like it or not, and he might not show up, but you see a little spark. What was it like watching the spark catch fire in your husband as he, you know, kept going back?
Hmm. That's a really good question. I think for me, it was uh, just a little glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
And a knowing and intuition. I just had this intuition that if I held the line and I pressed in, that something was happening and that things were gonna be different.
You know, you're sounding really Marine-like right now, Stephanie. I mean, I'm tracking fully. Like you sound like a Marine right now. I'm like, you sure you're Navy? You sure?
We have a disproportionate number of Marines that come through our program. So
So how did you go then? You're watching your husband do this and he changes, right? And you get hope. So what said to you, you know what? This has worked. It had to start having benefits in other parts of your marriage as a parenting and everything else. I mean, it had to, change things, right?
Oh, definitely. I think the first big thing that I saw change was just really him unfolding, beginning to connect with other people and forge friendships, but his mindfulness, his ability. We talk a lot about mindfulness. I think the word gets so overused in our society today, but really it's the ability to be present right here, right now in this experience, to not time travel back into a past that no longer exists or fortune tell a future that's not real. And so his ability to be present in the moment just rapidly increased, and the way in which he was dealing with stressors changed too, right? So our cortisol levels, they go up when we have these kinds of hard traumatic experiences, and then they stay there, and so these little things set us off. And so bringing those cortisol levels back down, I just watched a podcast yesterday and I can't remember the name of it, but they were just talking about being able to sweat cortisol out.
Really?
So, so bringing those cortisol levels back down and then getting the tools to be able to deal with everyday stressors so that it's not compounding.
Awesome. Awesome. So when did it come from, hey, I'm participating in this program, it's changing our lives to, I want to be more involved in the program as, a volunteer or leadership, Stephanie?
So probably within the first 3 to 6 months, I was like, I looked at Andy and I was like, I'm a nerd. You guys have paper on the beach. Let me help you. And he linked me up with one of their board of directors at the time was also a nerd. And we just came together and we're like, okay, how do we make this thing more efficient? How do we make it better? How do we digitize everything? And just started building out processes. And really, they couldn't get rid of me. And so here we are today.
It's interesting you say that because I come from a very, process-oriented professional background, and a lot of what I do here is based on, automating redundant tasks and so on and so forth. But a lot of nonprofits don't see the value in doing that up front, and so they get mired down in the minutia and details when they could be more efficient. What was it like making that change to the organization as part of your first, foray into advocacy?
Um, I think in some ways it was really beautiful, and in other ways I learned a lot of hard lessons about people and how people operate, and how very specifically that not everyone thinks the same way I do. And about how important it is to get buy-in from people before you change things. They have to believe that it's worth it, that the change is worth it. We get, myself included, all of us in life, we just get so identified with our actions and our thought processes, and it can be really hard to make changes. Um, I think it's so beneficial and it's really powerful, and it's been able to drive the organization to where it is now. But taking it slow and not just dumping things on people when you do make that decision is definitely critical.
Well, we're veterans too, Stephanie, and change is hard.
Mhm.
I got to really believe in it. I'm guilty of that as well. Um, so my first thought when I saw the Warrior Surf Foundation, I'm like, oh yeah, this must be out in Cali somewhere, maybe Seattle, West Coast all the way. They got their Jeep with surfboards on it. And then I see that you guys are surfing in South Carolina. And
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Stephanie, I would not associate South Carolina with surfing at all. Like I associate it with the Durham Bulls, NASCAR, good barbecue, and other things, not surfing. So there's a surfing community in that part of Carolinas?
Yeah, we actually have a fairly big surfing community. Are our waves huge and consistent like California? No. Are they effective? Yes. Cam Richards is a pretty well known surfer, and he's actually from South Carolina. So
So I want to, let's just say I want to, do surfing, and I'll get to why I'm not really wild about surfing here in a minute. But, I'm a dude. I'm like a Shrek looking dude. And, I'm like, okay, Stephanie, my buddy dragged me here, or my girlfriend or whatever. I'm going to try this surfing thing out. What's the process to go from, okay, I think this is something I want to do, to actually getting in the water?
Yeah, so most people find us Instagram. A lot of people find us word of mouth from other veterans. They go on our website, they hit the program application tab, and our wellness director, who is such an awesome human being, connects with everybody one-on-one and gets them slotted into one of our clinic cycles, which is 12 weeks long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. hmm
Is that 12 weeks long all year, or just in the summer?
We start a new surf clinic the first Saturday of every month through September.
Now, wait a minute. Are you mean to tell me that in January, you all are out in the water surfing?
In January, we're in Guatemala and or Costa Rica.
Oh, okay.
We do surf in January, and the waves are actually pretty much everywhere better in the winter. So we do surf in January, but we don't actually start a clinic in January. It's pretty difficult to get most people to be motivated enough to come out in the winter to start a surf clinic when it's 30 degrees outside.
Well, the only reason I ask is people think the Pacific Ocean is warm. I'm like, no, at least by Camp Hilton where I was, Oceanside, and, the water's cold. Like, it's not warm. It's not like, ooh, it's not like Miami. It's cold. So
Yes.
I'm wondering, like, how does South Carolina work? Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. So you go through and you apply, and you
Mhm.
have somebody make that personal connection right up front and assess, the candidate, and then they get slotted into a class.
Mhm.
Is there any kind of, like, prereq that you want people to have before they come, or is it just no matter what skill level you are, come out and we will work with you to get you on a surfboard?
You just have to have a DD 214, or your spouse needs to have one, or other proof of service. We have people, I mean, we're putting kids on boards and pushing kids, obviously. We recently had the daughter of one of our veterans who has cystic fibrosis.
Wow.
We've we have tandem boards. You don't really have to have a lot of skill. Our oldest veteran is, I want to say, 72.
Get out.
Mhm.
Okay, so if I wanted to do this and live near you all, there's really no excuse then. I could try this.
That's right. Yeah.
So let me tell you why I'm like not too wild about getting on a surfboard. Because I'm in the Marine Corps, right? It's MCT time. It's the class for us non-grunts after boot camp, and it's like, hey, they've got this special. We go down to Oceanside and they take us surfing, and soup to nuts. It's like, $75. I'm like, get out. Did you read the paper where some shark, some great white or freaking tiger shark, chomps some surfer in half? You look like a freaking baby seal on one of those things. No freaking way am I getting on one of those things, and having some shark thinking I'm a snack. So I'm worried, Stephanie. Every time I read about a shark attack, it's some surfer who gets their arm or leg bit off. Am I just being nervous Nelly here, or do I have like a legitimate risk-based concern? Because, I kind of like me.
Yeah, I think not everyone. I think it's a legitimate fear, right? But also really unlikely to happen. You're more likely to get struck by lightning. Not everybody that does end up as a part of one of those incidences is a surfer. And I think car accidents are obviously a bigger risk to your health and safety than a shark is. And the other thing is, we have shark bans for people who are really worried about the sharks in the surf. They're magnetic bands from the company Shark Bands, and you can put them on, and they are a deterrent. Um, Usually, they're just not interested in you. They're out there, whether you're swimming or surfing, and you're not really on their menu list.
We could be. We
It's
could be.
it's pretty unlikely, and usually it's accidents. Most people aren't getting chomped in half, thankfully.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll internalize that a little bit more. Maybe I'll face that fear. We'll see. But you see these veterans start off on the program, and maybe they're like me, who like, you know what, I'm not going to be someone's snack or lunch, so I'm out. But okay, I'm here and I'll try it. Or they're like your husband, who's, the love of their life is like, you will do this or else. I don't know. What happens from your perspective when you see that veteran or their spouse go through the program and they start changing? Not just for you, but for your whole team, because I'm looking on the website, it's not just you and the founders, like you have a whole team to support this mission. How's that feel to you all?
I would say, I think I can speak for the team, when we see these kinds of profound impacts, it is so powerful to us. It's, we, if you're in, a lot of our team has either been in the service or they have family members who are in the service. And so they're just service driven people who want to help other people. And it would be a lie to say that it doesn't feel good to see someone else um, improve their life. That being said, to me, and I think to some of our other staff, there's a real deep personal connection there, because many of us know what it's like to be on the other end of that feeling, to be in the deep, dark places where you feel like you can't get out of. And the truth is, you can get out of them. There is hope, and you just can't give it up. There's always a little glimmer.
So, how does surfing do that? The only thing I can relate to it is like when I get on my motorcycle, no matter what kind of mood, what's going on, the minute I put it in gear, everything goes away and I'm in a different place and it refuels my soul. But surfing's a little bit different because there's no motor, there's no engine, it's just you and the waves. Kind of describe for me what that feels like, if you would.
Yeah, so I think each part of our program is designed really to mirror the next. So with surfing, you have to be super present. I imagine that you have to be super present when you ride a motorcycle too.
Yeah.
Super focused on the moment. Because if you're not, you're going to get wrecked. So that's one piece of the puzzle, is your mindfulness is coming online. The other piece of the puzzle, and I've heard this said by many surfers, and I'll repeat it because it's true. The energy of a wave, it starts out somewhere in the far distances of our universe, right? Before it makes its way all the way to our galaxy and our solar system and our moon that creates the tides and the waves. And that's, you're tapping into that rhythmic energy. And it makes our brains a little bit more malleable, makes them more open to change. And when you couple that with our wellness coaching, which is based on positive psychology, evolutionary psychology, and resiliency, you begin to see shifts in thinking, in processing, in perspective. And so there's this peaceful moment that allows us to shift the way we perceive the world, the way we think, and become more in tune with our authentic selves, which I think when we experience hard things like trauma before the military, during the military, after the military, it shifts us off course a little bit. And these tools like mindfulness, yoga, positive psychology, evolutionary psychology, they help us point our compass back to true north. And that enables us to find a sense of purpose. And we all need purpose and community to thrive. And so you have this experience of surfing where you probably suck at it to begin with, but you fail over and over and over and over again around people who care about you, who want to see you do better, who want to see you succeed and be well and be a part of the bigger community. And there's something very powerful about failing until you succeed with a group that cares about you.
You're in the wetsuit and you finally get up on the board and you don't fall over. I mean, must be a really powerful feeling to be riding the wave, literally.
It's super powerful, and that doesn't change. No matter how good you get at surfing, there's always a place to kind of push yourself to. There's always that feeling of what's next, and there's always a little bit of challenge involved in it, even when you're really good at it, which I am not saying that I am very good at it at all, but I believe that exists. And so that feeling of mastery is always there. There's always something else to learn.
Just to go back to the community aspect for a minute, you all have been around for a little while now. What I'm saying is you're not a new nonprofit by any stretch of the imagination. What, how has the community developed and grown over time? When you have these veterans come through there and then, they have to stick around, or some of them do, some of them don't. But how have you all grown?
We've really grown quite a lot, and kind of had this joke that if you build it, they will come joke. One of the very first initiatives that we came up with were that we would, when we graduate people from our program, we wouldn't kick them to the curb. We would put them in alumni status. And so 50, about 52 weeks out of the year, we are able to host community surf events. So you can come out and surf with new participants. You can go to group yoga with new participants, and you can become a mentor. And that community has been really sustainable and self-building.
So once you're in, you can stay in as long as you want and serve in different ways, and really keep the wave going, to no pun intended.
Mhm. Yep.
How has this changed your life then? You go from being in the Navy working on nuclear propulsion to, no propulsion, it's just the waves guiding you, to now serving in this way. How have you changed, Stephanie?
Gosh, tremendously so. I'd like to say that, we you forget when you're in it how powerful the tools can be. If I look back on my life 10 years ago, I would not have thought I would be sitting here having this conversation. I am eternally grateful to be in a position to be able to serve, to go out there and do the hard work of building this nonprofit to make sure we can do programming. Um, and it's changed my life in the sense that uh, I have my own purpose in this, and I've learned so much about myself, about working with people. It's really made me a much better person. I'm very humbled every day by it.
That's really inspiring, it really is. What's next for Warrior Surf Foundation this year? I mean, we're still early in the year when we're recording this, but I mean, what's the overall goal or main initiatives for Warrior Surf Foundation in 2024?
We really want to include spouses and children more. That's been one of our initiatives for the last couple of years, to just get them out there. We always have invited them. They've always been able to participate, but to just increase that participation more. I was just having a meeting earlier today about potentially doing a different kind of family day where we bring kids and maybe tie-dye some t-shirts with them so they feel more included. The other thing that we've been kicking around, and the idea bucket, I guess, is creating a program where we can train other people. There's a huge desire for surf therapy all up and down the coasts, but creating a training program where we actually teach people how to get a nonprofit like this off the ground. We have a real big abundance mindset here, and we always think there's more than enough to go around. But we know we can't do everything, and we can't be everything to everybody. So how do we get this programming out to more people?
That's a very different perspective in the nonprofit world, Stephanie. I don't hear that. In fact, I've never heard that before. And, usually you're advised to keep your cards close to your chest because, why should you give away what somebody else hasn't earned in the nonprofit space? That's a very interesting perspective. Why did you all go that way?
I think that we just really believe that we want as many people that want to be able to do surf therapy to have access to it. We've done a really good job. Our team has done a really good job of honing in what a 12-week surf therapy program can look like to be really beneficial. And there's just so much, in my humble opinion, gatekeeping in the world. And why would we, who are supposed to be people of service, keep anyone from that?
Interesting. Very, very interesting. It's a refreshing perspective to hear because it goes back to the whole, mindset of you go further together.
Mhm.
You go further together. And I see it with a lot of nonprofits is they're so closed off to collaboration and other opportunities that they wind up just, you know, they can't go as far fast, they can't get going, and eventually they get frustrated and quit. So um, that is very refreshing to hear. So I'm in the South Carolina area, or I'm on the World Wide Web, social media. How do I connect to the Warrior Surf Foundation and, understand what you all are doing?
So the easiest way to get connected to us is go to our website, which is warriorsurf.org, or get on Instagram, which is also Warrior Surf, and follow us on there. We just got back from our 2 retreats that we host in Central America for veterans who've graduated our program. So we've got a lot of new content from that coming out, which we're really excited to share.
Well, I will have the website link and the Instagram link, any other social media link in the Oscar Mike Radio show post. Um, I certainly, ladies and gentlemen, had a good time looking at the photos, and I'm like, well, maybe if I get over my concern of sharks, I'd give this a try if I was in the South Carolina area. So I encourage you to check it out. You got some good stuff coming up for 2024. I love the focus on the family. I really believe that that's truly the next step of veterans advocacy is the whole family unit. We talked about that here before in Oscar Mike Radio. It costs money and time and effort to do this. What if somebody wants to support you all on a financial level, or any other kind of need you all have? How can they do that?
Yeah, well, that's true. It does cost money because our program is 100% free to veterans and their families. Um, so if somebody wanted to support us financially, I would never say no to that, because they really are making an impact and changing lives. And they can head over to our website, warriorsurf.org/donate or /volunteer.
Fantastic, fantastic. So listen, this is the kind of thing we're going to have on Oscar Mike Radio where veterans do amazing things in the military and then use their military experience to serve outside and different things. And this is a first for Oscar Mike Radio. I've never had anything about surfing on my show ever. Stephanie, I've learned a lot today. I'm having to recalibrate my mind around love, which is huge for people who know me. I mean, that hit me in the feels, which is hard to do. And then about, seals and sharks. And, I guess you are right. If you drive in Boston like I do, I guess I am safer in the ocean than on the Route 3 South during rush hour traffic. So you kind of make a good point there. Hollywood's Hollywood. You just can't walk up to an aircraft carrier and download some of their fuel.
Oh,
And it's a community thing where something like surfing can really change lives. I just want to thank you for sharing so openly and candidly. I appreciate it.
thank you for having me on. I really appreciate your time.
No problem, no problem. Look, folks, I'm going to have the links to the Warrior Surf Foundation and the Oscar Mike Radio show post. Follow them on Instagram. Check it out. Support if you can, and if you get through Folly Beach, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Get in the Folly Beach area of South Carolina, maybe check it out the class one day. I don't know, maybe Stephanie will let you do that. If I get down that way, Stephanie, I'll definitely check it out. And maybe I won't be shark bait that day and try to get on a surfboard. You never know.
Well, as long as you got an instructor staring in the water, right? They're going to be the first one down, so you'll be fine.
All right. So, I mean, risk averted right there. We're all good. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Look, folks, this is the best part about doing Oscar Mike Radio is these new experiences. Stephanie, thanks again, and hang 10.
Thank you.
Remember, on it teaches our mission. We care about it, we do it every day. But I think there are things that just hit you and give you a reason to go on. The theme for our 2024 for Reach Across America is Live with Purpose. It just seemed to fit in with the vows of the REIT, the 10 attributes that we feel represent our United States military. I thought, what a great opportunity to put those two things together and show our kids through how we act some of the things that can make their lives better, their communities better, and by doing that, the country better. For me, live with purpose, I think, it's a mindset. Set some guidelines and then go out and purposefully make life different, make a change. It's an opportunity to set an example.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. Oscar Mike Radio is an oversized load Co-Sinister One production. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 988 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.